My leadership journey, I think, strongly began at the university, but got molded from experiences from primary school and high school, where I served as prefect, and I was a very, very active student in all those levels. So at the university, I went and contested for a seat. The first time I contested for a seat, I lost. Um, that was very, very discouraging and very hurting. And it's the first time I faced rejection, and I couldn't understand why I was not elected. The following year, I was disappointed, so I didn't vie because of that, the harsh experience that I went through. But I remember someday watching a sermon from Joyce Meyer, and Joyce Meyer was challenging the viewers, who was me and the many others at that time, that that which you don't like in your environment, what are you going to do about it? And asking us, who do you expect to bring that change, if not for you? That change can only be brought if you take up the responsibility. And I got really challenged and motivated after watching that sermon, and then went back to my leadership journey, and then contested for a seat again. This time I was lucky, and actually I won, and I was so encouraged through that experience. And the next year, in my third year, I even went for a very big position to represent the entire student fraternity in the executive position, and I won. And it was a very beautiful time, and I got to learn a lot, and I got to represent the students very well. Transition to the world after campus. I went to work. I worked for the bank. I started with KCB, then I transitioned to NIC, then currently NCBA, where I worked in different positions, but I was never satisfied. There was just something that I used to find myself lost and feel I'm out of place. The work was good and everything was good, but as a person, there's just that inner satisfaction that I never used to have with my work, and I was just not content. And I remember every election year, I would really, really want to plunge into politics, but I was never bold enough. Some of the excuses, right now I look at them as excuses, but by then they were valid reasons. So I thought were reasons to do with I have a young family, I have young children, my marriage is still very young, there's a point I wasn't married. So those are some of the reasons that I gave myself not to plunge into politics, but there was a deep and a strong desire towards it. So then I pursued my master's, still at the same time while working at the bank at Maseno University. Same experiences were still there of having this desire but not bold enough to go there, and having several excuses to hold me back. But come 2022, I just said the story was different. The reason why the story was different is this time round, of all the times that it was not appropriate for me to vie, 2022 was actually the worst time I could have vied, compared if I'm to use the excuses that I had before. So I had to take a bold step of faith and just plunge in and go into it. My finances were very weak, and I was very, very scared. To be very honest, I was very scared, and that played a part in me taking a long time in coming out publicly and letting people know that I'm also contesting for Migosi MCA position. I did a lot of back and forth, but finally I was bold enough and I declared it, and I got in the race. So then I got in the race and I got to learn, and from my experiences now has culminated to what we're doing here today. One of the things that I did learn, and one of the impediments that women have, of course, is financial challenges that abhors many women from contending from these seats, or even making them a very strong candidate. There's a lot of handout mentality that has been created and inculcated in our society, so much so that when you don't give people handouts, people don't consider you as a strong candidate, even if you are. Women, we also have the burden. For me, I had the burden of having young children, and so to balance between politics and taking care of children, I have to admit that was a challenge. Most meetings in politics happen at night, and those are some of the times you want to check homework, or you want to just make sure that your children are comfortable. So it's very challenging. Another challenge that I faced was security. you find political rallies are not very safe for female contenders, and you may want to have people who are called grooms or security guards. But then again, just even accessing the podium and leaving the podium and even having those security guards requires money. So if you don't have money, it becomes a challenge. But even to access it, even if you have these people, is a challenge. So security is one of the biggest challenges that women face. I was attacked. There's a place I went to campaign. I was attacked. They got in my car and they stole anything and everything that they could manage to steal. Unfortunately or fortunately, these were youths that I knew. Some of them were my friends. They were familiar faces. But just by the mere fact that I was not giving handouts, they felt they had the audacity then to come and steal my property just because I didn't give them. They felt like I owed them. Because other aspirants were giving out, then I owed them to also give them out. But of the biggest challenge that I face on an individual capacity, the other challenges I want to believe all candidates, especially all female candidates, face. But specifically to Linda, I'd go researching about politics and I wanted to learn. Considering it was my first time to plunge into now the big stage politics, I wanted a platform where I could learn about politics. So I'm a researcher and I'd go online to just try and Google and find information like how do you raise funds, how do you speak in a rally, how do you dress, all this information about politics that could help equip me for the race that I'd gotten into. And to my disappointment, I couldn't find. There was no YouTube channel speaking about it. There was no website. There was no podcast. There was just a whole vacuum out there. And so I was left to learn by myself and just try and figure out my way here and there. Of course, I was a beneficiary on one or two trainings that are held by by women CSOs, but I have to admit those trainings are inadequate. Why? They have time limit. It's maybe a day or two. You can't learn politics in a day or two. That time is very short. Two, there is no reference material that you can go back to and refer over and over and over again. Three, they also have budget limits, so they don't cover the whole spectrum of what the training should cover. And four, they're not on the ground. Politics, it's one thing to learn politics in class, it's another to experience it at the ground. So I found the trainings, I'd admit that they helped me, but I found them insufficient to fully equip me for the race that I was going for. So that brought me to where I am today, to create this channel to teach women what politics is from my own experiences, share my experience, and also bring other women who have been in this industry and who have been players to also share their experiences so that we can learn. And not only that, to just break down for you, because if you want to find out information about IEBC and the legal process, it will take you a long time. So those are some of the topics that we're going to bring on board and just equip you and teach you. My sole agenda and objective is, one, to increase the number of women participating in politics. Why is that so? We have just celebrated 60 years since we received our independence as a country in Kenya. However, women in elective position are 10% of the women of the total representatives. This figure is very low, and for us to get more women to participate, I hope this information, disseminating information to them, I believe is going to empower them and enrich them and have more of them. So I hope through the online platform, then women can get a platform that is cheap, if not free, women contestants, where they can come and advertise themselves and sell themselves and sell their policies to their constituents and seek for votes, so that we eliminate this hurdle called publicity, expensive publicity, that women contestants have to face out there through mainstream media. With that said, this is a journey that we're beginning today. I trust that it will yield many good leaders, and we're not just trying to bring up any woman leader. We're trying to bring up very good leaders. We're trying to change the narrative that Kenya does not have good leaders. I believe deep down that there are good leaders, but because the election process in Kenya is very rigorous and is very challenging for women to come out, then most of them shy away from even coming out to participate in politics. So I hope to change the notion that there are no good leaders. I believe they're good leaders and I believe they're change makers. Women are few, but if you're to talk about young women, I mean women below the ages of 35, they're even few. However, they're there and we need to find avenues by which we encourage them to take up leadership positions and to take up political positions. So I believe that I'm going to, through this channel, that I'm going to play a role together with other stakeholders, and together our efforts will culminate in seeing into it that the next elections and the elections after that, women are not only going to achieve the 30% gender rule as required by the law of Kenya, but they're even going to surpass it. And at a certain point, it is my dream that women will be 50% of the elected members of parliament in this country.